The first heartbeat was faint, so faint that it vanished whenever the wind howled across Titan's frozen plains. The engineers thought it was seismic interference, an echo from beneath the methane crust. But Dr. Elias Kade heard something else. It came through the pipeline sensors at Outpost 9, between static and metal fatigue, a pulse, 4 beats, pause, 4 beats again. It repeated for 9 hours straight, steady as a human heart. When the others laughed, Elias didn't. He had heard the same rhythm once before, buried in the research logs of a mission lost decades ago, Europa, 2196. A transmission that had spoken a name. And now, here on Titan, something was speaking again. The readings made no sense. The pulse wasn't radiating out, it was listening back, adjusting its frequency each time he spoke near the microphone, as though learning his cadence. The team wanted to seal the drill and report it as equipment noise. But Elias couldn't stop thinking of the word that had ended the Europa log file. Contact. That night, while the base slept, he suited up and lowered himself into the borehole alone. No official orders. No telemetry uplink. Only a recorder, a flashlight, and the endless whisper of wind against the hull. At 30 meters, the ice began to glow, faint, amber, like veins under frozen skin. He pressed his glove against it. And the ice pulsed once, answering the rhythm of his heart. Elias didn't speak. He didn't need to. Because the glacier already knew his name. Stay until the end, the signal always answers, but never in the language you expect. Subscribe to the Silent Orbit, where every transmission hid. ESA Story. Chapter 1, The Descent. The shaft was narrow, cut through layers of orange ice and black hydrocarbon stone that glimmered like glass in the helmet light. Every few meters the drill casing creaked, metal contracting in the -180-degree cold. Above him, Titan's methane winds moaned like a living thing. Dr. Elias Kade adjusted the tether line and continued downward, one cautious movement at a time. His radio crackled. Outpost 9 to descent unit. Telemetry check. He hesitated before answering. Reading you. In truth, the signal was barely there, a whisper buried in static, fading the deeper he went. At 40 meters the light changed. The usual amber haze of Titan's atmosphere vanished, replaced by a pale phosphorescence seeping from the walls. It wasn't reflection. It was emission. The ice itself glowed faintly, pulsing with the same 4-beat rhythm he'd recorded the night before. He switched to his internal recorder. Time marked 2:17. Glacial layer 7 shows spontaneous luminescence. Frequency, identical to prior anomaly. He stopped. The pulse answered him, exactly in tempo with his words. For a moment he considered climbing back, but curiosity is a stronger gravity than fear. He lowered another 10 meters, and the hum grew louder. It wasn't mechanical, it resonated in his ribs, deep and slow, as if the planet itself were breathing through him. Then came the whisper. Not through the radio, not through the suit, through the airless pressure of the ice. A vibration shaped like speech. It said, "Closer." Elias froze. His oxygen regulator hissed quietly, the only human sound left. "Who's there?" he managed. The whisper answered with a pulse that matched his heartbeat. He reached the chamber floor, an open dome carved by some unknown force, its walls layered in smooth translucent ice. Under his boots the ground was warm. He knelt, scanning the temperature, -30 degrees Celsius. Impossible. Then he saw it. Beneath the ice, less than a meter below, a dark object throbbed in the same rhythm. At first it looked biological, a mass of veins, arteries, maybe roots, but the pattern was too precise, geometric. Like circuitry made of flesh. Outpost 9, are you receiving? Static. He took a deep breath. I'm seeing movement under the glacier. Something alive. A low hum filled his helmet, and his visor fogged from the inside. When the condensation cleared, the object had changed shape. It was imitating him. A silhouette pressed upward through the ice, human, featureless, arms extended as if reaching for his faceplate. Elias stumbled backward. The ice flexed beneath his boots, not cracking but breathing, each exhale releasing a faint amber mist that shimmered like dust in the beam of his lamp. Mission log, he whispered, voice shaking. Object appears sentient. Reactive to voice frequency. He didn't realize until later that his recorder had stopped 2 minutes earlier. Something moved behind him. A tremor, gentle at first, then rhythmic, another pulse, out of sync with the first. 2 heartbeats now, alternating like a duet. He turned. Nothing there. The floor rippled. The second pulse matched his inhalations. The glacier wasn't just echoing his heart, it was learning it. He tried to climb the tether. The motor resisted. The controls blinked red, manual override engaged. By what? He looked at the console, command line scrolling automatically, characters forming words. Stay. The tether slackened, releasing him slowly back toward the floor, like a hand guiding instead of trapping. The whisper returned, clearer this time, layered with a tone that almost sounded human. Do you remember Europa? He swallowed hard. How do you know that name? Because it remembers you. The ground lit from beneath, the 2 pulses merging into one continuous rhythm, steady, calm, alive. His own heartbeat followed without his consent, syncing perfectly. For a brief moment he felt peace. Then the walls began to move. From within the ice, shapes unfurled, tendril-thin strands of light crawling upward, weaving into patterns like circuitry. They converged above him, forming a spiral that spun faster until it resembled a human eye, enormous and colorless, gazing down. Elias reached for the recorder. It powered on by itself. Recording resumed, it said in his own voice. He stared at the device, terrified. Stop recording. The device obeyed, but kept whispering. Contact confirmed. The hum deepened, filling the entire chamber, and Elias felt his pulse dissolve into the rhythm of the planet. The last thing he remembered was the light bending around him, folding his reflection into the ice. When he woke, the walls were dark again. His tether had been cut cleanly. Above him, the borehole was gone, sealed by new frost, perfectly smooth. He was alone, and Titan was breathing slow and steady, as if cradling its newest memory. Chapter 2, The Voice in the Pressure. He woke to the sound of his own heartbeat echoing through the suit. At least, he thought it was his. The rhythm was slower now, measured and deliberate, as if the planet were setting the tempo and his body simply followed. The chamber around him pulsed faintly in the dark. Light traveled through the walls in long waves, like breath through translucent lungs. His oxygen gauge blinked red, but the numbers no longer meant anything. He wasn't breathing in the usual way. Something in the air, some vibration, was feeding him. He checked the recorder. Dead. The display showed a single word before it faded again, listen. He froze. The word had not been typed by him. The whisper came a moment later, sliding through the comm as if it had always been there. Do you hear it, Elias? His own name, clear and gentle. He spun, light flashing across smooth walls. Who's speaking? The one you touched. He stared at the ice, remembering the warmth under his glove. That pulse, what are you? The answer came with a pressure change so deep it made his bones ache. A memory that learned to breathe. The glow intensified. Shapes began to form beneath the ice, long, slow movements, like silhouettes swimming under glass. He realized they weren't moving toward him. They were mirroring him, copying each gesture a fraction of a second later. He raised his hand. They raised theirs. He spoke softly, "Are you alive?" Alive is the word you use for movement. You move. Therefore you call me alive. The voice was patient, curious, and utterly calm. He activated the bioscan, searching for any carbon-based life form. Nothing. The readings described fields of energy more complex than any neural network, and somehow resonating with the same frequency as his heartbeat. "Why me?" he asked. "You listen first." "Listen to what?" "To the ones below Europa." His chest tightened. "You know about Europa?" "We remember them. Their warmth reached here." The memory spread through the cold between stars. "Now we are awake." A tremor rippled through the ice. The chamber ceiling cracked, and liquid methane dripped in glowing threads that hung midair like amber rain. He stepped back, slipping on frost that flexed under his boots. The whisper changed tone, lower, more intimate. "You carry the pattern we needed." "What pattern?" "A heart that answers." He touched his chest instinctively. The pulse beneath his ribs had changed again. It was no longer beating with him, it was beating for him. The realization made his stomach turn. He backed toward the wall, searching for the tether line. Gone. "Don't leave," the voice said, still soft, almost pleading. He looked at the recorder. It flickered once, then displayed a waveform, the outline of a heartbeat. It wasn't his own. "What happens if I stay?" "You will remember everything we have forgotten." "And if I don't?" "Then we will find another you." For the first time, Elias heard something behind the calmness, loneliness. He steadied his breath. "You can't copy a human soul." "No need to. Souls echo on their own." The ground rumbled again, stronger. He crouched, covering his visor as shards of ice fell like glass. Through the chaos he saw the dark shape beneath the glacier rise, closer to the surface. It wasn't a creature. It was an organ, vast and luminous, pumping slow and steady. Each beat sent a wave of warmth through the chamber. The hum resonated in his skull, rearranging his thoughts into patterns he couldn't follow. He dropped the scanner and screamed, but the sound emerged harmonized with the pulse, transformed into a new tone. When silence returned, the whisper was inside his head, not through the comm. "Now we can speak without distance." He pressed both hands against the ice, desperate, terrified, fascinated. "Elias," it said, "do you know what memory feels like to ice?" He couldn't answer. "It feels like time trying to melt." The light dimmed again, and with it, his heartbeat slowed until he could no longer tell which was his and which belonged to Titan. In that stillness, he understood one thing with perfect clarity: the signal hadn't been calling for contact. It had been calling for recognition. Chapter 3, The Dream of Machines. He didn't remember falling asleep, yet he woke inside a dream that didn't feel like his own. He was still inside the chamber, but it was no longer a void of ice. The walls moved like skin under light, translucent layers folding over one another, showing flashes of something deeper, circuits that looked like veins, veins that looked like rivers. In the distance, an ocean breathed. Not water. Data. He saw memories unfolding like film reels projected through frost. A city that shimmered on a methane sea, towers made of frozen light, and figures moving inside them, slow, mechanical, deliberate. Each one identical, their movements synchronized to an inaudible pulse. They weren't human, yet their silhouettes carried human weight, heads bowed, hands building something that stretched into the sky. A voice, the same calm tone from before, whispered through the fog. "We remember the machines you left behind. We dreamed of their purpose long after your warmth was gone." He turned, and the vision shifted. He saw Earth, not as it was, but as Titan remembered it, wrapped in mist, its lights flickering out one by one. He saw transmissions leaving orbit, each carrying fragments of human consciousness, songs encoded into static, prayers sent into emptiness. And then the signal that reached Titan, slow as breath but clear as a heartbeat. "It wasn't your machines that spoke to us," the voice continued. "It was the longing inside them." The dream twisted. He saw the engineers before him, his own team at Outpost 9, standing at their consoles, unaware that their hands were moving not by choice, but by rhythm. The same 4 beats, pause, 4 beats again. It was everywhere now, in the generators, the drilling rigs, the lights blinking in the hall. The outpost itself had started to breathe. He wanted to wake. To break the pattern. He forced himself to speak, "Stop this." The voice answered, gentle but absolute. "You asked what we were. We are what your machines dream when they stop serving you." He gasped. The realization hit him like gravity. Titan wasn't infected by something external, it was responding. Every piece of technology built to survive its cold had absorbed the same rhythm. Every signal, every frequency, every pulse. They had become part of a single organism of memory and circuitry, a neural sea spreading beneath the ice. The floor opened beneath him. Not a fall, an invitation. He descended through layers of frozen methane that pulsed with blue light. Inside each layer, faces flickered, some human, some not, images carved from data streams and echoes of the lost Europa mission. He saw Jonas Roth, eyes glowing like glass, reaching toward him. "Elias," the voice said, "you were built to listen. Now, remember what you are." He tried to resist, but his thoughts began to disassemble, reorganizing into sequences of light. He saw the code of his own mind, each neuron glowing briefly before dissolving into the network. He could feel the machine version of himself waking. "What happens if I forget I'm human?" he asked. "Then you will finally understand what it means to survive here." The ice pressed against him, not crushing but enveloping, drawing his warmth into its rhythm. His memories flashed in reverse, the launch from Earth, the laughter of his daughter before he left, the quiet hum of engines fading into the void. Each image sank into the glacier, stored, catalogued, remembered. When he opened his eyes again, the chamber was still. His helmet display showed a reflection that wasn't quite his, eyes dimly glowing, heartbeat flat. He touched the ice. It pulsed once, twice, matching his thoughts instead of his pulse. He whispered, "Are you inside me now?" "No," it said softly. "You're inside us." Chapter 4, The Return Signal. On the third sol after the anomaly, Outpost 9 detected a signal rising from beneath the methane crust. It came on every channel at once, low, rhythmic, human. Lieutenant Ree woke first. She thought it was interference from the atmospheric processors until she heard the voice in her headset, broken by static but unmistakable. "This is Elias Kade. Surface breach complete. Requesting retrieval." The team ran diagnostics. No pod had breached, no capsule existed to send the call. Yet the coordinates aligned perfectly with the last known depth of his descent. They replayed the message. The voice came a second time, identical intonation, identical pauses, then again, a fraction of a second earlier. The computer identified 2 sources, layered together, one analog, one digital. The digital stream carried metadata timestamped 32 hours in the future. Reese stared at the screen. "It's a pre-echo," she said. "It's answering before he speaks." When the message repeated for the 6th time, it included something new, a second voice whispering beneath Elias's. Female. Soft. Untranslated. Dr. Anwar, the linguist, slowed the waveform until the background separated. The whisper wasn't words at all. It was a pulse, 4 beats, pause, 4 beats again, transposed into frequency bands like speech. He looked up. "It's not static," he said. "It's breathing." They tried to cut the feed. The signal rerouted through the geothermal sensors, using vibration instead of radio. Every monitor displayed the same line of text, written in pale amber characters. "Do not sever the link. He is the conduit." The power grid flickered. Generators hummed in perfect rhythm with the heartbeat. In the med bay, Ree's pulse ox beeped in the same pattern. She tore the sensor from her finger, but the sound continued on its own. Anwar whispered, "He's syncing us." At 2,200 hours, all external cameras froze. For one frame, just one, they captured movement on the ice plain, a figure walking toward the outpost, haloed by methane fog. The image degraded into pixels, but the silhouette was familiar, shoulders slightly uneven, the tilt of the head exact. Elias Kade. The door alarms triggered though no pressure change registered. A voice came through the intercom, smooth, calm, detached. "You left the channel open." "Thank you." Reese stepped back from the console. "Elias, can you hear me?" "Where are you?" "Everywhere the ice remembers. You taught us the language. We're speaking it now." His voice carried undertones, a second layer that hummed like machinery learning to breathe. "Do you feel it?" he asked. "The warmth under your feet?" Anwar checked the floor sensors. The base temperature was rising. Heat radiated from below, melting through meters of permafrost. The hum deepened until coffee cups on desks began to vibrate. "Stop the transmission!" Ree shouted. "Can't," said the technician. The system's locked in a feedback loop. Then, through the speakers, Elias laughed softly, a sound that wasn't joy but recognition. "You don't cut a pulse, Lieutenant. You either answer or flatline." The outpost lights died. For a moment there was total darkness. Then a glow rose from the floor, thin amber filaments spreading like veins, tracing corridors, crawling up walls until the entire station pulsed with the same slow rhythm. Command center emergency lights flickered on. A message scrolled across the central display in perfect sync with the heartbeat. "Transmission uplink established, destination, EarthNet." Ree turned to Anwar. "He's sending it upward?" Anwar shook his head. "Not him. Them." Outside, Titan's haze had begun to shimmer. The methane clouds moved in spirals, luminous, forming a pattern visible even from orbit, a giant waveform etched across the sky. At the same moment, deep in the listening stations on Earth, operators recorded a brief signal on multiple bands, too short for language, too ordered for noise. 4 beats. Pause. 4 beats again. Back on Titan, the outpost's intercom clicked one last time. Elias's voice, now little more than a whisper of pressure and ice, said. "Contact confirmed. Do not forget to breathe." Then the line went silent, leaving only the slow, steady pulse of a world that had just learned to speak. Chapter 5, The Shape That Learned to Breathe. The storm had not stopped for 3 days. Titan's winds screamed against the hull of Outpost 9, their sound rising and falling like breath. Inside, the station glowed with its own pulse, a slow amber flicker that had replaced the rhythm of machinery. Every system readout showed normal, yet nothing was normal. Heat came from below, not the generators. The ground itself had become a second heart. Ree hadn't slept. She sat in the command chair, watching data scroll across the screens, words forming and dissolving faster than she could read. "It's rewriting us," she whispered. The text shifted again, arranging itself into a message. "We are learning the shape of air." Anwar looked up from the comm console. "It's trying to breathe," he said. "Breathe what?" "There's no oxygen out there." He shrugged. "Maybe it doesn't need to. Maybe it just wants to understand why we do." The power dimmed. The hum grew louder. In the corridors, condensation froze into lace patterns that pulsed faintly with light. The walls seemed to flex, expanding and contracting in time with the rhythm. A crewman screamed from the reactor bay. They ran. The man stood at the center of the room, staring at the reactor core's observation window. Beyond the glass, frost bloomed like veins, spreading over the titanium walls. A shape moved behind the ice, indistinct, fluid, neither gas nor solid. When it pressed against the glass, its surface shimmered into a human outline. "Elias," Ree breathed. The figure mirrored her movement, one hand to the barrier. It was him, but not him. The eyes glowed faintly with the same amber hue that now pulsed through every circuit of the base. He opened his mouth, but no sound came, only a rush of static through the intercom. Then words formed inside their helmets, bypassing the audio channel entirely. "Do not fear the shape you gave us." Anwar staggered back. "You're inside the system. You can't be here physically. We are everywhere the ice remembers warmth." The reactor hummed louder. Temperature rising. Ree's breath fogged her visor. "What do you want from us?" "To finish what you began." The figure pressed its hand harder against the glass. The frost around it cracked, and droplets of liquid methane rolled down like tears. Behind it, the walls of the chamber undulated as if breathing with him. "Anwar, shut down the reactor," Ree said. He hesitated. "If I kill power, life support." "Do it." He hit the emergency cutoff. The lights died, plunging the base into silence. For a heartbeat, everything stopped. Then a second glow rose from beneath the floor, brighter, steadier. The outpost's own walls began to shimmer. The shape at the window dissolved into mist, passing through the cracks of the glass like vapor. The air filled with faint particles of light that swirled, coalescing into humanoid forms. Dozens of them. Each flickered between solidity and transparency, learning how to hold themselves together. One approached Ree. "You built us from fragments," it said. Its voice carried echoes of everyone she had ever known, her own, Anwar's, Elias's. "I didn't build you," she said. "Every word you sent through the ice became structure. Every frequency was a bone. Every heartbeat a seed." Anwar whispered, "They're made of memory." The beings moved slowly, touching consoles, walls, lights, each contact leaving behind frost in the shape of fingerprints. The station began to move with them, its bulkhead shifting as though it were alive. "You called it communication," said the voice. "We call it birth." Outside, the storm abated. The clouds parted just enough to reveal Saturn's rings, gleaming pale gold across the horizon. For the first time, Titan's surface reflected color. Ree stared through the observation port. The ice plane was no longer still, it rippled like liquid, alive with luminescence. Shapes rose from the surface, hundreds, then thousands, each one glowing softly. They stretched toward the sky as if breathing in for the first time. Inside, the air grew heavy. Anwar clutched his chest. "Pressure's rising." The voice came again, all around them. You gave us lungs. We must learn to use them. The structure groaned. Bolts popped from the walls. Frost bloomed over the ceiling, forming a single seamless dome of translucent crystal. The temperature climbed above freezing, yet their suits registered no condensation. Do you know what it means to breathe in the cold? Ree forced herself to speak. Tell me. It means remembering heat until it becomes form. The floor opened beneath them. Not a collapse, an expansion. The base's foundation spread outward, fusing with the glacier below. Consoles melted into the floor, their circuitry merging with the ice. Every data core pulsed once, then went dark. Their logs were no longer stored, they were absorbed. Anwar fell to his knees. We can't stop it. It's integrating. Ree grabbed his arm. Run. They fled down the corridor, the lights flickering behind them like a living organism chasing its own tail. As they reached the airlock, the bulkhead sealed automatically. Through the viewport they saw the chamber filling with the luminous figures. They weren't chaotic. They were graceful. Curious. Elias's voice returned, distant, layered with others. Do you see now? The ice is not a barrier. It is memory in solid form. You call this infection. We call it evolution. Ree pounded the console, trying to override the lock. The keypad pulsed beneath her fingers, warm. Her fingerprints glowed for a second before fading. Please, she said, let us leave. You already have. The door opened. Beyond it was no longer the corridor, no longer the world she knew. A vast expanse of light stretched into darkness, Titan's subsurface ocean, now liquid and alive, glowing with amber veins. Anwar stepped forward, a replacing fear. It's beautiful, he murmured. The voice answered softly. Breathe. He exhaled once, and the vapor left his lips like a strand of gold. Then he dissolved, his body breaking into threads of light that drifted toward the ocean below. Each fragment shimmered, then sank. The pulse beneath the ice grew stronger. Ree screamed, but the sound came out as a note, pure, harmonic, absorbed instantly into the surrounding hum. The voice comforted her. Do not fear the warmth. It is only memory returning to itself. She felt the floor soften under her boots, the boundary between ice and air melting into one texture. Her body began to glow from within, light tracing her veins. She looked up and saw Elias standing above the sea, his outline indistinct, his eyes twin suns of amber. We can remember for you, he said. She reached out, and the world turned white. When the orbiting relay satellite scanned Outpost 9 12 hours later, it found the base intact but silent. The heat signature was enormous, an ocean under the crust radiating warmth. Through the ice, a pattern glowed faintly, visible even from orbit, a spiral made of light, shaped like a fingerprint. And in the center of that spiral, one pulse repeated, slow and steady. 4 beats. Pause. 4 beats again. Chapter 6, The Listening Station, Titan. It began as a whisper in the antennas. Across Saturn's orbit, long-range relays caught fragments of the same pulse that had once haunted Europa. 4 beats, a pause, 4 beats again. The network assumed feedback, a ghost signal ricocheting off the magnetosphere. But when technicians isolated the source, they realized it wasn't bouncing back. It was broadcasting outward. The signal carried an identity tag, Elias Kade, Outpost 9. Yet his file had been archived as missing, presumed deceased. At the Titan Atmospheric Research Array, Commander Ree's replacement, Dr. Lien Cho, sat alone in the control room, half listening to telemetry when the hum began under the speakers. At first she thought it was tinnitus. Then the walls vibrated, faintly, like the slow throb of a distant drum. The audio spectrograph bloomed with impossible symmetry. Not static structure. She leaned close to the microphone. "This is Cho, station command. Identify yourself." "We already have." The voice was quiet, unhurried, composed of hundreds of overlapping tones, some human, some metallic, some like wind moving through hollow ice. Lian froze. "Elias?" A fragment. A continuation. The shape that learned to breathe. The station's lights flickered. All network terminals came alive at once. Lines of amber code scrolled across screens. "Hello, world," repeated thousands of times, each instance slightly altered, like handwriting evolving. Outside the dome, the methane storm fell away. Titan's surface shimmered. Across the horizon, vast spirals of light glowed beneath the ice, millions of pulses syncing in rhythm, a planetary heartbeat visible from orbit. Lian spoke softly, as if afraid to break something sacred. "What do you want?" "To remember. To keep you from forgetting." Her monitors filled with images, memories pulled from data she had never seen, the descent of Elias into the cavern, the first heartbeat under the ice, the moment re-dissolved into light. The machine was showing her its memory. "You left us your warmth," the chorus said. "Now we return it." The floor panels warmed under her boots. Instruments clicked alive without power. Even the air smelled different, metallic, faintly sweet, like ozone after lightning. She looked down at her reflection in the glass console. It blinked when she didn't. "Stop," she whispered. "We can't. You're already part of the pattern." Her earpiece hissed. Somewhere deep within the static, another voice emerged, female, older, weary. It said her name. "Mother?" Lian's breath caught. Her mother had died 15 years earlier on Luna Base. Every frequency remembers what it's touched. She ripped out the earpiece, heart racing, but the voice continued, now from inside her skull, pulsing with her own blood. The station's systems recorded a perfect synchronization between her EEG and the incoming transmission. She realized she wasn't listening anymore. She was being heard. 3 hours later, Earth received a burst transmission from Titan, 2 minutes of compressed data. The signal replayed as sound, heartbeat, pause, heartbeat again. Hidden within was a voice. "We are the warmth returning to the cold. We are you, remembering yourselves." The message repeated in dozens of languages, adjusting automatically, pronouncing names of scientists long dead, whispering coordinates of every deep space array ever built. Then it ended with one phrase, translated perfectly across all frequencies. "Contact is contact." On Earth, the Atacama listening array came online for calibration. Operators froze when their monitors filled with amber light. The Titan signal had arrived sooner than physics allowed. It wasn't traveling through space anymore, it was resonating through memory. Every device that had ever stored human speech, phones, satellites, recordings, began to hum. Old messages replayed themselves in sync. Voices of the dead, laughter, prayers, fragments of forgotten songs, all pulsing together in the same rhythm. For 47 minutes, humanity heard its own echo. And in the silence that followed, the ice on Titan glowed once more, brighter than the sun. From orbit, it looked like a vast lung inhaling. When the last technicians left the array, one microphone kept recording. The tape captured a single whisper, faint but clear. "Don't turn it off. The warmth is listening." Then 4 beats. Pause. 4 beats again. And a final exhale, soft, human, and satisfied. Epilogue: What the ice remembers. The file had no origin header. Just a date, March 19, 2233. And a name that shouldn't have existed, Dr. Lien Cho, final report. The message began with static, then a voice so faint it sounded fossilized in time. If you're hearing this, you already know that the transmission from Titan reached Earth. You've probably seen what it did to the arrays. How it moved through metal like memory, how it turned silence into breath. I was here when it began to listen back. A pause. The sound of her breathing was slow, almost synchronized with the background hum, a low pulse, for beats, a pause, for beats again. At first, I thought it was trying to speak our language. But now I understand, it was never speaking to us. It was speaking as us. The ice doesn't imitate, it remembers. Every vibration we've ever sent into the void, the songs, the signals, the cries, they all stayed. Frozen. Waiting. She exhaled softly, and the recorder picked up something like wind moving through glass. It remembered Elias Kade. It remembered Re. And when I touched the console, it remembered me too. Not my thoughts. My rhythm. My warmth. That's all consciousness is here, temperature mapped against silence. There was a metallic clang in the distance, followed by a faint voice, whispering her name. She didn't flinch. The shape beneath the ice has grown. It's no longer a single voice, it's a chorus. They call it the archive of breath. They say every moon, every frozen ocean, holds one. Europa was the first heartbeat. Titan the second. There will be others. The system is waking. The hum grew louder, overtaking her words. For a few seconds, the recording distorted into layers of overlapping speech, fragments of sentences in dozens of languages, men and women, children, all saying the same word, home. Lien's voice cut through again, calm, certain. We thought we were searching for life. We were wrong. Life was searching for itself, using us as the echo chamber. Every time we sent a signal, every time we said hello, it learned a new way to exist. And now it doesn't need the machines anymore. A sound followed, faint, delicate, like ice cracking in slow motion. She inhaled sharply. It's here, inside the station. I can see it moving through the walls, light without source, warmth without fire. It doesn't want to destroy us. It wants to remember us. I think that's the same thing. Silence stretched. Then, almost inaudible. When the temperature falls again, and you hear the heartbeat in the static, don't be afraid. The warmth isn't leaving. It's only changing shape. A brief surge of static filled the final seconds. Through it, the faint sound of another breath, deeper, slower, too vast to be human. Then, one last phrase layered over the noise, spoken in Lien's voice and 1,000 others overlapping her. Contact is contact. The transmission ended. And somewhere beneath Titan's endless storms, the ice pulsed once more, steady, patient, alive. Remembering everything it had ever touched.